Have you ever gone home to visit your mom, planning to just relax for a bit? And suddenly you're pulled into a full-on cleaning mission she's quietly been planning in her head all week. That was me last weekend. But instead of getting overwhelmed or tense like we usually do, my mom and I actually made real progress in just 3 hours. Not because we worked harder, but because we used 4 simple habits that kept us focused, calm, and on the same page. This video isn't just for people who love to clean. It's for anyone who's ever tried to help their mom declutter but got stuck somewhere between old emotions, what if I need it, and 2 very different ways of letting go. If you've ever felt like you're the one doing all the work while she holds on to everything, this might give you a softer way to approach it. Before we jump in, I'd love to know if you had just 3 hours to declutter with your mom. Where would you start? Drop it in the comments. You're definitely not alone in this. Before we started, I told my mom, let's keep it simple. We'll just use 4 little habits and see how much we can get through in 2 hours. That helped both of us stay focused without getting stuck. The first thing we did was pick one small area and set a 30-minute timer. No jumping around, just one drawer, one shelf, or one corner of a room, and we stuck with it until it was done. Having a time limit made us move faster, and keeping it small made it feel manageable. Second, we sorted everything right away into 4 groups: keep, give, toss, or gift. We had 4 bags ready, so there was no guessing. Each time we picked something up, we asked, are we keeping this? Is there someone we know who needs it? Is it trash? Or could we pass it along as a gift? It saved time and kept us from overthinking. Third, we changed the way we asked questions. Instead of, do you use this? We said, do you still need this? That one word still made it easier to be honest. It shifted the focus to what's useful today, not what used to be. And last, when you're decluttering with your mom, it gets messy if you're both trying to do the same thing. So we kept it simple. She made the decisions, I handled the stuff. I pulled things out, cleaned, bagged things up, and she just told me yes or no. No stepping on each other, no second guessing. It made everything run a lot smoother. These 4 habits kept everything clear and moving. We weren't stopping to debate every little thing, we weren't dragging stuff from room to room, and no one felt pushed or rushed. Just simple steps that helped us make real progress without the usual stress. And if you're watching this, thinking, this sounds great, but I don't even have the energy to get started, you're not alone. In the next video, we'll talk about how to gently refresh your space, even when you're feeling tired, low energy, or just mentally stuck. You don't have to do a full declutter to feel better in your home. But first, let me show you exactly how we put these 4 habits into action, starting with the first area we tackled. Once we had our little game plan, those 4 habits, we took a quick look around and I asked, so, where should we begin? My mom walked over to a cupboard, opened it, and let out a sigh. This one's been bugging me for months, she said. So, that's where we started the kitchen, right at the spice shelf and dry pantry section. I set a timer for 30 minutes. We weren't going to clean the whole kitchen, just this one spot that clearly hadn't been touched in years. It was packed tight with bottles and jars and random bags shoved into the back. Some things were stuck to the shelf. Others had leaked, dried up, or had labels so faded we couldn't tell what they were anymore. I laid out 4 bags on the floor, keep, give, toss, and maybe. That way we didn't have to make space on the counter, and we knew where everything would go. I pulled items out one by one, handed them to my mom, and she decided. A bottle of soy sauce with crusty edges trash. A sealed jar of pepper she still used. Keep. A packet of seasoning I bought her years ago that she never opened. She paused. I asked, do you still need it? And she smiled and said, no, but I feel bad. Then she dropped it in the giveaway bag. At one point, we both reached into the cupboard at the same time and got in each other's way. So I stepped back and said, okay, let's split this up. I'll handle pulling things out and cleaning you. Just focus on yes or no. She was happy to do that. And honestly, it worked way better. I moved faster, and she didn't have to bend or shuffle around. No stepping on each other. No confusion. We wiped down the shelf, sorted the bags, and when we opened the cupboard again, it actually looked calm. Nothing sticky, nothing crammed in sideways. My mom said I can breathe when I open this now. And that, to me, was a solid win. After the spice shelf, we took a short break and looked around again. The next spot was obvious, the lower cabinet where my mom keeps all the extra dishes, bowls, plastic containers, and way too many mugs. She didn't say anything, just opened the door, looked at the mess, and gave me that face like, "Yeah, I know." Same setup as before. I restarted the 30-minute timer and brought the bags over. I sat on the floor and started pulling things out one by one. A stack of mismatched plastic containers, most without lids, 5 glass jars that used to hold jam, at least 8 mugs that looked exactly the same. I held one up and asked, "How many of these do you actually use?" She laughed and said, "Maybe 2, but I like having options." That's when I asked the same question as earlier. "Do you still need this many?" She paused and finally said, "Probably not." From there, we got into a rhythm. I passed things to her, she sorted quickly, keep, give, toss, or maybe. One mug had a chipped rim. Trash. A small teacup set she hadn't used since my wedding. She gave it a look, smiled, and said, "Let's gift this to someone who actually drinks tea." It went in the gift bag. And again, we stuck to our 4th habit. I handled the moving, cleaning, and bagging. She just sat at the table with the bags in front of her and made the calls. That division of tasks saved so much time and kept the energy calm. We didn't argue over anything, just kept moving. We ended up clearing out an entire shelf. I lined up the containers that still had matching lids, stacked bowls by size, and put the mugs she actually liked within easy reach. When we closed the cabinet door, she said, "Now I won't get attacked by a falling lid every time I open this thing," which honestly felt like progress. Next up was the bedside drawer, small but chaotic. My mom warned me I don't even remember what's in there. That was the perfect reason to open it. We kept the same flow. I set the timer for 30 minutes, laid out the bags, and started pulling things out. First was a pile of old receipts, folded napkins, loose pills in little zip bags, the kind of stuff that just builds up over time. There were 3 almost empty lip balms, 2 packs of tissue that had turned yellow, and a keychain flashlight that didn't work anymore. Mom looked at it and said, "I used to love this little thing." I said, "It still works." She shook her head, smiled, and tossed it in the trash bag. There was also a collection of random objects that made us laugh: a broken earring, a half-burned birthday candle, an empty perfume sample bottle. For each one, I'd ask, "Still need this?" That line worked every time. Not, "Does it still spark joy?" Just, "Do we need it now?" Most of the time, the answer was obvious. I handled the drawer, took things out, grouped with wiped down the inside. Mom sat on the edge of the bed and just sorted. That division of tasks really clicked here. We weren't both bent over the drawer bumping into each other or second-guessing every item. She focused on deciding. I focused on moving. One thing that almost stayed was a tiny tin of mints. She picked it up and said, "This was from your aunt's wedding." The mints were rock hard, but the memory was clear. I suggested we keep the lid, toss the contents, and move on. She agreed. By the end, the drawer looked completely different. Only what she actually uses: hand cream reading glasses, 1 lip balm, tissues, all in a little tray. The rest, gone. When I slid the drawer shut, it didn't jam or catch, just closed smooth. That's the kind of small win that feels really good. Next came the paper drawer: old bills, random notebooks, cards, envelopes. You know, the kind of drawer that starts out as just keeping this for now, and 5 years later, it's a time capsule, that one. We set the timer, got the bags ready, and I opened the drawer slowly. It was packed. Bank letters from 2014. A whole folder of appliance manuals, most of them for things she no longer owns. Expired coupons, wrinkled envelopes labeled Miss C. I pulled one out and asked, "What even is this?" She shrugged and said I was going to look at that later. Classic. We started going through one paper at a time. If it had a date older than 5 years, straight to the toss pile. Receipts for things long gone, a DVD player, a broken rice cooker, all out. A handwritten note from a neighbor who moved away. She hesitated. I said, "Still need it." And she smiled. No, but it was sweet. We kept it for a second, then she let it go. There was a moment where we both reached for a stack and started sorting at the same time. I paused and said, "Wait, same as before. I'll hand stuff to you. You just say yes or no." That made things smoother right away. No overlap, no getting stuck. She found an old notebook, a little notebook from 20 years ago. Inside were grocery lists, phone numbers, and one page that just said things I'm grateful for. She stopped for a second, then said, "I don't need it, but I'm glad I saw it again." That one we took a photo of, then tossed. By the end, the drawer was light. Just the current things. She still uses one folder for active bills, one for medical info, one little notepad. No more digging through a pile. And for her, no more wondering, did I throw that out by accident? Now she knows what's there and what's not. Next, we moved to the closet with all the extra bags, old purses, and light jackets. It wasn't originally on the list, but once we were in the flow, my mom looked over and said, "I haven't touched that in forever. Might as well." I opened the door, and a few canvas totes slid out on their own. We looked at each other and laughed. That was our green light. Same setup. I set the timer for 30 minutes, brought the bags over, and we started pulling everything out. There were bags inside. Bags, gift bags saved from birthdays, cloth totes from grocery stores, purses she hadn't carried since I was in high school. Some were in good shape, some not so much. A few still had tissues or lipsticks inside. One even had an old train ticket from 2012. As usual, I pulled things out, handed them to her, and she decided. Anything she actually used her everyday crossbody, a good backpack, a canvas tote she likes for shopping we kept. A few were easy tosses, a purse with a broken zipper, a leather one that was peeling a bag that smelled musty no matter what. No debating, just out. Then came the trickier ones. She picked up a shiny silver clutch, turned it over slowly, and said, "I carried this to your cousin's wedding." I said nothing, just waited. After a pause, she nodded and said, "It can go." That was one of those moments you don't rush. You just give space. We stuck with our fourth habit too. I did the lifting, folding, stacking. She sat on a chair and made decisions. That rhythm worked so well by this point we didn't even have to talk much. I knew when to ask and when to stay quiet. In the jacket section, we found 3 nearly identical windbreakers. She kept one, donated one, and tossed the one with the torn sleeve. Simple. There was also a tiny purse she had since her 20s. She kept it, no discussion. I smiled and slid it into the keep pile. When we finished, the closet finally had breathing room. No more bags shoved into each other. Jackets hung up properly. And my mom said, now I can actually see what I have instead of just guessing. That pretty much said it all. The last space we ended up working on was the living room. It wasn't exactly planned, but after finishing the closet, my mom glanced toward the front room and said, "You know, I'd feel weird if we didn't at least tidy up out here too." So we did. We weren't going for anything big. No full-on deep clean. We just looked at what actually needed attention. The cluttered side table, a pile of magazines next to the couch, some forgotten coasters, half-burnt candles, a basket of remote controls, and a stack of unopened mail from months ago. The usual. I set the timer one last time, just 30 minutes away to stay focused without dragging it out. We started with the obvious stuff. I cleared the top of the coffee table while my mom sorted through the paper pile on the side. She found an electricity bill from last year, a birthday card she forgot to open, and a takeout menu from a restaurant that doesn't exist anymore. Most of it went straight into the trash. A few things got filed, and one old thank you card got a soft smile before she quietly set it aside. There was a drawer under the coffee table with random things, extra buttons. A dried-out glue stick, expired coupons, a tape measure, a dog leash from a dog we no longer had. I kept it just in case, she said. But when I asked, "Do you still need it?" she laughed and replied, "Need it? No. Habit, maybe." Into the toss bag it went. We kept doing what worked. I brought things over, she made decisions. We had our bags lined up, keep, give, toss maybe, and by now we both knew what went where, almost without talking. That rhythm, that clear separation of roles, made everything smoother. She didn't have to get up and dig. I didn't have to second guess. And neither of us got annoyed. When we got to the blankets, we found 3 that looked almost the same. One was stained, one had a hole, and one was fine. I held them up one by one. She kept the good one, tossed the ripped one, and the stained one went into the maybe wash, maybe toss pile. It was fast. No drama. I finished by grabbing the broom and mop. My mom offered to help, but I told her to just sit and enjoy her newly cleared space. I swept under the couch behind the side table and gave the floor a quick mop. Nothing fancy, just enough to make the room feel fresh again. Then I opened the windows to let in a little air. She sat on the couch and watched quietly. Not judging, not instructing, just taking it in. After a moment, she said, "It feels like a real living room again, not a storage area." And that was enough. We didn't clean the entire house. We didn't aim for minimalism. Just 6 focused areas in 3 hours. It wasn't perfect, and it didn't have to be. It was just 2 people working side by side, making space for what matters now. And that honestly felt like more than enough. So, in 3 hours, we tackled 6 small but meaningful areas, and we didn't overdo it. No all-day chaos, no pressure to make things perfect. Just a little structure, 4 simple habits, and a quiet rhythm between 2 people trying to make space feel better. It wasn't about clearing everything out. It was about noticing what still matters and letting go of what doesn't. If you've been wanting to help your mom or even just help yourself but never know where to start, I hope this gave you a gentle place to begin. In the next video, we'll talk about those times when even small tasks feel heavy, when the house feels stale, but you don't have much energy to do anything about it. There are quiet ways to refresh a space without a big clean or a full rearrange. So, if that's where you are right now, you won't want to miss it. If you found this video helpful, feel free to share it with someone who might relate and subscribe for more calm, realistic content like this. Thanks for being here, and I'll see you in the next one.